Right, this video is a short introduction to the IELTS program, and in particular to IELTS, the examination, and the difficulties that we expect students to encounter as they do the exam and the training. So, just briefly, there's only two organisations who actually oversee the IELTS exam. One is the British Council, and the other one is an institution called the IDP, which is an Australian institution. Both of these institutions operate pretty much worldwide, and they're the ones who administer the tests and do the marking. So you have a choice when you look to book your test in whichever country or whichever location you're in, to whether you book through the British Council or the IDP. The exam is exactly the same. But there are two institutions. As I say, they both do all of the examinations. Now, when I say all of the examinations, there are actually three different exams which are run by IELTS. One is called General Training. You don't want to do the General Training exam for this program. The other is called the Academic exam. Now, there are two versions of the Academic exam, and this is where it becomes a little bit more restrictive. You need to have the academic exam to go to Ireland. You need to have the UK VI exam, academic, to go to the UK. So again, the exams, in this case, the academic VI and the academic are the same exam. The only difference there is that the administration for the VI exam is much stricter than it is for the ordinary academic exam. So the exam content and the questions are identical, but there is a difference in the administration because the UK has set a higher standard for the marking and the administration of the actual exam itself. They require more bio data, more proof of who the person is. Right, so if we look at what the actual content of the exam is, there are four components. There are four disciplines that you have to master in order to pass the exam. We have listening is the first test that comes up. The running order is always the same. So the listening test comes first. That's 40 minutes, so it's quite a short test. You would be expected to answer 40 questions in that time. And when I say 40 minutes, it's actually a half-hour exam with 10 minutes to transfer your answers to a form which is submitted for marking. So 40 minutes overall, but 30 minutes of actual audio content that you have to answer the questions on. And in the listening, normally we find that the Filipino students do pretty well on listening. They're accomplished at listening to English. They having lived in the country of the Philippines, a lot of the culture here includes English. So the television, the law, teaching in schools includes a large component of English. This isn't normally a problem for the Filipino students. Then we have the reading. The reading can be more of a challenge if people haven't done a lot of practice reading, but the students that we're dealing with here are nursing students, so they will have had to have done quite a lot of reading in order to pass their nursing exams. So they are used to reading large amounts of material, processing that material, and then answering questions or learning from a large amount of material. So reading again produces a lot of problems for the Filipino students. The marking in both of those exams, or the form of testing in both of those exams, is largely multiple choice or filling in the blanks. Now again, the examination system in ordinary schooling and university in the Philippines includes a large component of multiple choice and filling in blanks. So again, both the subject matter and the form of testing are something that Filipino students are used to throughout their academic careers in the Philippines. Okay, so the next item that comes up, or the next discipline that comes up in the test, is the writing. Now this is a 1-hour test, and This one is a bit more of a challenge because it actually requires the student to produce 2 essays in 1 hour. The first essay is 150 words and the second essay is 250 words. Now those are not very long essays, but for the form of academic education that the Filipinos have had, where they are used more to multiple choice and blank filling, writing essays is not something they've had probably enough experience of. So this is more of a challenge, and a lot of our training for this is geared more towards the writing than it is to the listening and the reading. We find that this is something that we can provide much more value to the students for and give them a bigger boost. So the first 3 parts of the test are all sort of in some form of written form. They are either the listening, the reading, or the writing, all performed with pen and paper, or pencil and paper, and they are all always conducted on the same day. But normally the speaking is conducted on a separate day. So you can be, for the first 3 components, you will be sitting in a large room with a lot of other students, all performing the test at the same time. But when it comes to the speaking, it's a one-on-one with the examiner. So obviously you are in a room only with the examiner, and they ask you questions, you respond to the questions, and you provide more information about yourself. And again, this is something that we find a lot of the students, I wouldn't say they struggle so much, but they have to overcome nervousness or a lack of confidence. And this is something that we find quite frequently in the Philippines, is that students, although they've got a good knowledge of English, they haven't used it in the form of writing, and they haven't used it in the form of speaking to foreigners, and very often the examiners will be foreigners. So they tend to get a bit tense and a bit nervous. So again, a large part of our focus is in getting used to speaking to foreigners, getting used to the types of questions that you're going to be tested on, and actually going through the exam repeatedly until there's no longer any surprise or any shock or any lack of confidence, that you become competent at answering those questions. Okay, that concludes the introduction. So it's a fairly broad brush necessarily, just so that you have an idea of what we're going to be doing and what the test involves. So just to sum up briefly at the end here. So there are 3 tests overall. There's the general training, academic, and academic UKVI. So the one that you need to be, the 2 that you need to be doing are the academic, if you're going to go to Ireland, or the UKVI if you want to go to Ireland. They will accept the UKVI, but in the UK they will not accept the academic. So there is just that, just have to be aware of the fact that they're not totally interchangeable. Even though the exam is the same, the UK is particularly interested in the administration of the test, and that's where they're tightest. So within the academic test, whether it's the UKVI or the academic, the straightforward academic test, then you have 4 disciplines. First up, you've got the listening, then you have the reading, then you have the writing, and on another day you will do the speaking. So that is the test that you have to complete. Just like to say one other thing about the term passing the test. So strictly speaking, with IELTS, there is no pass or fail with the test. You don't pass the test or fail the test. What IELTS does is it gives you a level. It says you are at this level. The level that we need, or that you need, in order to go to both the UK and Ireland, is level 7. So you need to have an average of 7 across the board. In the UK, you need to have a minimum of 7, so none of your scores can fall below 7.